Okay, folks. Today's sponsor, in fact, sponsoring us, I think over the course of the next week or so, is Just Coffee, the longest sponsor we have had on this program. They're the ones who actually tipped me off to the Cernovich situation. They started back in Air America. This week, MR25 gets you 25% off of all coffee from Just Coffee. But first, I want to talk about food flavorings. When you get flavored coffee beans, they're not flavored with actual ingredients that you'd keep in the kitchen. They are chemical flavorings that trick your brain into thinking that they taste like holiday cinnamon joy. I'm not even sure what that is, but did you ever wonder what's in those flavors? Flavorings, so-called, they're one of the ingredients, and there's lots more, is called propylene glycol. A public health statement released from the CDC about exposure to propylene glycol starts off with this. This information is important because this substance may harm you. The effects of exposure to any hazardous substance depends on the dose, duration, how you're exposed, personal traits, habits, whether other chemicals are present. And then it defines propylene glycol as propylene glycol is a synthetic liquid substance that absorbs water. Delish. Propylene glycol is also used to make polyester. The FDA has classified propylene glycol as an additive that is generally recognized for safe in use of food, which is, of course, an iffy statement. The bottom line is the ingredients of my favorite coffee, I'll tell you what it is. Coffee. That's it. Just coffee. If you need flavorings in your coffee, add flavorings yourself. You can add ingredients you know and understand. Don't let companies add them for you. And Just Coffee has you covered with clean, great coffee. This is a co-op that is interested in sustainability, is interested in their farmers, is interested in you, and obviously the principles around a co-op. Check it out, justcoffee.coop. Fair trade coffee. MR25 gets you 25% off of all their coffees. And this is the new Majority Report blend logo. Okay, now time for the show.
With Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. Wait.
Yes.
August 20th, 2024. We are broadcasting. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, day one at the Democratic National Convention draws big protests and a big send-off for Joe Biden, who is just now wrapping up his speech. That's a joke. Unity and stories of Republican bans of abortion front and center on night one. Also on the program, we'll be joined by Jasper Nathaniel, writer of the Infinite Jaz newsletter on SubStack, with a piece he's done for Zateo on just one example of what's going on in the West Bank. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Blinken pretends Israel has accepted a new ceasefire deal. But they're calling it sort of like a truce deal, which is sort of like a bridge deal, which is really nothing. At the DNC, Harris calls for a 25% corporate tax rate, still smaller than it was under Bill Clinton. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders calls for a Democratic Party super PAC ban in their primaries. Elon Musk's Twitter takeover now considered the worst buyout for banks since the great financial crisis. Convicted felon and also Senator Bob Menendez to resign the Senate seat by the end of the day. And speaking of former lawmakers going to jail, George Santos pleads guilty. Could get more than 2 years. Cornell University workers to strike. New poll shows Harris leading Trump in Nebraska's second, which is a key solitary electoral vote. Mexico's judiciary goes on strike over a proposal to make them elected positions. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us. It is
Newsday Tuesday.
Newsday Tuesday. Where's Emma?
I'm here.
There she is. Okay. We're going to basically go over the DNC last night. I tried to stream it, and it did not work. I tried to do it from home. I couldn't get the OBS to work on my computer. It was very glitchy, but we're going to try again tonight. Certainly by Wednesday, we'll have a more robust coverage. But last night, I mean, there was no huge craziness. Emma, did you watch the thing? I didn't. I had to watch Biden's speech this morning.
I did. I stayed up for Biden's speech, although, it was hard to capture my attention at that time, both in the way that he delivers his speech and also because it was so late. But yeah, it was the coverage is now focused on the fact that he was bumped out of prime time because of all the delays, and his aides are leaking to the press that they take this as some sort of snub. At the end of the day, though, no one who isn't just like obsessed with politics is even paying attention to that story.
Yeah, I think that's the case. And there's been a couple of different things that I've read as to why they ran so late. One of the things I've heard, I have not confirmed this, but that at one point protesters outside, and there weren't as tens of thousands as anticipated, but there were certainly thousands upon thousands. Some had broken through the perimeter at one point, and apparently that shut a lot of stuff down. And there were reports that's why things got kicked off a little later than they had assumed. And if that's the case, kudos, because you want to basically, as you're protesting these things, you want to communicate to really the Harris campaign that this is going to be difficult. We're going to make this more difficult for you going forward. And let's be clear, and we'll talk more about this later. The polling shows that this is a political position that would help Harris, aside from just the clear moral responsibility that's there. But we'll talk more about that in a moment. The most fun moment of the evening, for me personally, was this one where Sean Fain, and we should say Sean O'Brien, the president of the Teamsters, apparently basically got ghosted by the Democratic Party. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, but I don't know if from a tactical strategic level, if that's the best move to make. But for the Democrats, but nevertheless, Sean Fain was speaking on the first night, and I don't remember there being at least in my lifetime, or at least in my sort of more adult lifetime, there being a more popular union leader than Sean Fain. And here he is. Came up wearing a shirt. You could sort of see what was going on with the jacket, but then it apparently got very hot in the convention hall.
For the UAW and for working class people everywhere, this election comes down to one question. Which side are you on? On one side, we have Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who have stood shoulder to shoulder with the working class. On the other side, we have Trump and Vance. Two lapdogs for the billionaire class who only serve themselves. So for us in the labor movement, it's real simple. Kamala Harris is one of us. She's a fighter for the working class. And Donald Trump is a scab. That's not just my opinion. That's a fact.
Wait, do we have the moment where he takes his coat off?
He takes his coat off. We'll find that. You may have gotten a hint as to what this T-shirt says based on
Yes. Here we go.
some of what he said during that speech. Yeah, we got it here. He took it off.
In the words of the great American poet, Nellie, it's getting hot in here. It's hot in here.
You know, the thing I love about this is obviously, you know, I like Trump being called a scab, but I also like the term scab being, you know, introduced back into the lexicon in such an unmitigated sort of like disfavorable way. I mean,
as people in the audience hold up Union Yes signs.
Yeah, I mean, this
Trump's a
is
scab. Yeah,
I just don't like, you know. I mean, maybe I've just haven't, you know, there wasn't as much focus in the past on it, or maybe I wasn't paying as much attention. But like this type of like of union militancy, you know, and this is just a rally, but it is a rally in the sort of like the, you know, the what is the mainstream of the Democratic Party, and for unionism to be so full-throatedly cheered, and the idea of being a scab being associated with Donald Trump. That's pretty good. I mean, you know, one of the ways I get my kids to behave at times, I'm like, I say, you are acting like Donald Trump. And so if these things can be internalized, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that, like being so full-throatedly pro-union. I mean, when I was hearing about unions as a young teenager, it's like, are these or strikes, for instance? It'd be like strikes. They seem kind of scary and bad, maybe. And now we're calling people scabs. So interesting.
It's definitely different. And, you know, there's facts behind it. I mean, Trump said he was going to keep the jobs in the United States, but there was that infamous case of the General Motors plant in, I guess it was in Ohio, where he particularly said, don't move, don't sell your house. We will keep this plant here. And the plant moved, and Trump didn't do anything about it. And so there's like both a material track record and, of course, the obvious politics of the Republican Party, but for Trump specifically, that the UAW has decided you know, I think Sean Fain has rightfully decided to take that on head on, which I am appreciative of.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can recall when Biden ended up walking the picket line, Trump, in sort of competition with him, met with auto workers or workers who weren't working specifically in the plants, but working sort of like subsidiary parts manufacturers.
Right.
And they were all non-union shops.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Trump was basically, he wasn't really hiding the ball very much.
And, you know, O'Brien mentioned Amazon at his RNC speech. Fain mentioned Stellantis over and calling them out over the idled plant that he's trying to get reopened and restarted. So I like that sort of immediate tactical approach too.
Yep. That's a great platform in which to leverage some of that. All right. In a moment, well, we're going to just a couple of words from their sponsors. We're going to go through a couple other highlights from night one at the DNC. But first, as you know, warm weather brings outdoor activities. In fact, I'm going to the beach soon, hopefully, next couple of days. You grill up some burgers, hot dogs for dinner, pickleball on the weekends. Not necessarily for me. Golf leagues. I never play golf, but I do go outside and I do go to the beach. And with all that time spent in the sun, what does it do to your hair? Doesn't matter whether it's the hat you're constantly wearing that rubs against your hair, causing stress, or sun affecting your scalp and hair. Right now is the perfect time to start taking Nutrafol to help keep your hair healthy this summer. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, with over 1 million people seeing thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are physician formulated using 100% drug-free ingredients. Their patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sex life. I started taking Nutrafol, I guess it was now almost over a year ago. I was getting a little thinning up here. I mean, I'm getting old. And I figured why go down with a fight, without a fight rather. And it doesn't compromise your sex life, as it says, and it's all drug-free. And so I've had great success with it. I still take it every day. In fact, I was reminded to take it when I saw the ad. Mm-hmm. Many supplements rely solely on ingredient studies. What Nutrafol does is they have clinical tests that test the entire formulation. So what you actually end up taking, they have tested specifically that combination. And in clinical studies, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol's men hair growth supplement. You can take their hair wellness quiz on Nutrafol.com/men for a personalized hair health plan based on your specific root causes. That is not a pun. With Nutrafol, building a hair growth routine is simple. Purchase online, no prescription or doctor's visits required. Free shipping and automated deliveries ensure you'll never miss a day. You will see results in 3 to 6 months, and you'll be reminded to take it when you hear the sound of my voice. Take the first step towards achieving your hair growth goals. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription. Free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men. Enter the promo code TMR. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men, promo code TMR. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code TMR. Put the link in the podcast and YouTube description. Also, you know those detergent pods you put in your dishwasher? You know how they keep all that stuff together? Like what surrounds it? Plastic. Ugh. And you know how when you open up your dishwasher, all of it's gone? Where do you think that goes? That plastic doesn't just disappear. It breaks down and it gets on your plates and it goes into our oceans and our rivers and our soil. Well, Blue Land is on a mission to eliminate single-use plastic by reinventing cleaning essentials to be better for you and the planet with the same powerful clean you're used to. Blue Land uses no single-use plastic in any component. Its bottles, its tablets, and its wrappers to its shipping. Their tablet packaging is fully compostable. Blue Land products are effective and affordable. Their dishwasher tablets are proven to perform on baked on, burnt on stains. No rinse aid is needed. These things are great. They clean the dishes. I don't get any of that filmy stuff. And there's no plastic around them. And the beauty is I don't need to lug a big jug home from the supermarket. I don't need to have this box that I just wonder, like, where's this plastic going? Oh, that was part of my dinner. You can get more savings too with Blue Land by buying refills in bulk or setting up a subscription. And bulk refills are basically a compostable bag full of tablets that you mix with water, and you get your all-purpose cleaner, your bathroom cleaner, your windows cleaner. You get your dishwasher tablets. Blue Land's trusted in over 1 million homes, including mine. Blue Land has a special offer for our listeners right now. Get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/majority. You don't want to miss this. Blueland.com/majority, 15% off. That's blueland.com/majority. Get 15% off. Again, we'll put the link in the podcast and YouTube description. All right, let's get back into the DNC last night. They gave Joe Biden like a 10-minute applause when he first came out. Maybe we'll get to that in a moment. But first thing that we wanted to play was clip number
13.
What was 13? Oh yeah, this was maybe a trigger alert here. I mean, this is both really in many respects disturbing, but also incredibly powerful. There were at least 3 sort of speeches given specifically about the impact of the Supreme Court getting rid of an individual right that has existed in this country for 51 years in the Dobbs case, striking down Roe v. Wade, essentially allowing for a third of the states in the country basically to have abortion bans, and creating incredible health risks for women outside of course, just diminishing their power to have control over their own bodies. And these stories of women who nearly lost their lives or their opportunity to sort of like dictate their fate were really, really powerful. You know, they try and sell these idea that there are exceptions to these abortion bans, and the exceptions are a joke. We'll have examples of that maybe later in the program, but this one really struck me. This is a Kentucky resident, Hadley Duvall. She is speaking about her experience of being raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Again, disturbing, but really important, and speaks directly to some of the absolute sort of like bizarre weirdness and just sort of disregard for women that Republicans are have really been one of the organizing principles of their political project over the past 20 years, 40 years.
Growing up, I was an all-American girl. Varsity soccer captain, cheerleading captain, homecoming queen, and survivor. I was raped by my stepfather after years of sexual abuse. At age 12, I took my first pregnancy test, and it was positive. That was the first time I was ever told, you have options. I can't imagine not having a choice. But today, that's the reality for many women and girls across the country because of Donald Trump's abortion bans. He calls it a beautiful thing. What is so beautiful about a child having to carry her parent's child? There are other survivors out there who have no options. And I want you to know that we see you. We hear you. Kamala Harris will sign a national law to restore the right to an abortion. She will fight for every woman and every girl, even those who are not fighting for her.
That's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah. And it's incredible for all of these right-wingers who have this kind of paternalistic view of women, and they're often talking about protecting women or protecting children, for that matter, you know, from the scary pedophiles and the groomers and the LGBTQ people. They're this exact same people who are supporting these abortion bans that have these window dressing exceptions that are not actionable and that would subject a 12-year-old little girl like Hadley there to having to give birth to her stepfather's baby. Like, I mean, and you know, she was the subject, I think, of an ad that the Biden campaign put out because her story is both so visceral, but also, unfortunately, not exceptional and is going to be less exceptional as this continues.
What's exceptional is her ability to speak out about it,
Yeah.
because it's the most horrible thing.
The most horrible thing. And she says that Harris would sign abortion rights into law. Now, that would require, by the way, a filibuster exemption, if that's the case, which would be interesting. I would like to hear more about how she would do that. But we know from reporting about the Biden campaign, they thought that his moderate position on abortion was the thing that was helping the Democrats in the midterms in 2022, because Biden's uncomfortable with the notion. I know, it's insane. He's uncomfortable with abortion as a Catholic, as if I care about that. And he thought that because, according to reporting on what his staff was telling him, that him being more moderate and not, remember when Elizabeth Warren wanted to use federal lands for abortion care?
Right.
He kind of let that die on the vine. And that was in some of what he was being told by his advisors, that was a way to look more reasonable and smart, which is why I'm just so thrilled that we're past that. But if Harris should show some daylight on that, and I just think a standard Democrat and a woman will instinctively probably have better thoughts on that, but still, it'd be interesting to see, is she in favor of eliminating the filibuster or creating some sort of exemption to codify Roe?
That was, and there was a couple more clips of people talking about that. Maybe we will play that later. There was, AOC probably gave the biggest sort of sidewinder of a speech in terms of also how the crowd was reacting to her. And maybe we'll play some, other clips of her talking. But the big story in terms of, like, basically there's two stories, right, with the DNC. One is how does the packaged a presentation, basically, this real life PowerPoint, play to the American public, and what does it do in terms of creating narratives within the press? And I think overall, from that perspective, the Democrats got to be pretty happy. I mean, Biden went late, but I don't think that's just sort of like a small detail in the presentation. Largely, the crowd seemed incredibly enthusiastic, and it was basically at the Hulk Hogan level for the entire time, relative to the
and she
Republican
came after
Party.
Sean Fain, right? And a lot of the speech was focused on workers and the working class, that was the part that I really appreciated. But the Gaza, the ceasefire mention, I have my thoughts. I know.
All right. Well, let's talk about that, because the other part of the DNC is what's playing out in terms of pushing Kamala Harris on the question of Gaza. Just the other thing that was going on that a lot of people basically said sounds like maybe a victory is that Gina Raimondo, who is sort of a famous neoliberal governor from Rhode Island, now Commerce Secretary, she espoused the value of antitrust and spoke of monopolies in her speech, which a lot of people took as like, okay, that battle's over. But let's look at how Gaza was spoken about in the first night of the convention. Here is AOC and speaking about Gaza. Great speech otherwise, but this was a little bit cookie cutter in my estimation. And Emma has some thoughts too, I imagine.
Kamala Harris, we have a chance to elect a president who is for the middle class because she is from the middle class. She understands the urgency of rent checks and groceries and prescriptions. She is as committed to our reproductive and civil rights as she is to taking on corporate greed. And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home.
Okay, no, she's not, because she's the vice president. Biden's doing this.
And he's not doing that either.
And he's doing a bad job.
Well, he's not doing it. He's lying about doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Blinken's in Egypt right now, claiming that I think, it depends on which media you read, but he's claiming that Netanyahu signed on to not a ceasefire, but some type of weird bridge truce thing that is backing off of what Netanyahu had pledged to accept a month and a half ago. And so this is obviously just deployed at this point to keep the protests down. Nobody thinks this is real. We'll play a clip a little bit later.
Don't we kind of think that's why the DNC wanted her speaking tonight, to say that to kind of pretend like, hey, we're doing this. The protests don't really have a huge point. Like, kind of feels to me that's why they wanted her to do it.
Well, that was the reporting from Daniel Marins, was that she was asked, not the other way around, which is interesting. And I don't like this because to what we're saying, first of all, saying she's the one working on the ceasefire that isn't going to come to fruition, because even Israeli officials are telling Axios that Netanyahu's in the way, ties Harris to a ceasefire negotiation policy that she's not across, that she's in a ceremonial position in the administration. This is the Biden West exec crew, Blinken, leading this. And then secondly, it reinforces this notion of the ceasefire too, when we know exactly what the conditions are, who's holding it up. What I didn't like is, like, I expect someone like Kamala Harris to repeat the line about ceasefire, because that's the narrow permission structure of somebody running in a general election for president of the United States. And I want her to go further, and I hope this pushes her to go further. But there's different expectations for someone at the top of a presidential ticket than if somebody who came into Congress as a DSA candidate, as somebody representative of the left, and who months ago was calling it a genocide on the House floor. So her role, in my estimation, should be to go out there and create oxygen for the protesters and for people who are trying to push Harris on this policy. And
and for Harris herself, now, regardless of whether Harris wants that or not.
Exactly. So repeating the State Department copy, why do that? Warnock did a much better job, and this was, David Dayan said, or alluded to the fact that this was maybe on ad-libbed because it wasn't in the official transcript, but this seemed to me in his speech more of an effective tactic.
In our humanity as a cough, I need my neighbor's children to be okay so that my children will be okay. I need all of my neighbor's children to be okay. Poor inner city children in Atlanta and poor children of Appalachia. I need the poor children of Israel and the poor children of Gaza. I need Israelis and Palestinians. I need those in the Congo, those in Haiti, those in Ukraine. I need American children on both sides of the track to be okay. Because we are all God's children. And so let's stand together. Let's work together. Let's organize together. Let's pray together. Let's stand together. Let's heal the land. God bless you.
That was better. And they didn't, this ABC feed didn't show it, but when he said Israelis and Palestinians, the MSNBC feed showed the split screen. That's when Harrison Walls stood up. Whatever, this is all ceremonial, who knows. But I just like, I mean, talking about the shared humanity, I would have much preferred for her to do that
Then lie.
than to not be, than to repeat the Biden administration line about the
But
ceasefire
that
right
line
now.
too, in particular, working tirelessly, is literally the exact words that Harris uses every time she's confronted with this, and it is
And Biden too.
and it's the thing is that there is even if I was to accept that premise, there is a willful refusal to use the leverage that would make it a lot less tiring. I mean, you know, you can, the bottom line is, it's one thing to say, like, we're working this, you know, in the most inefficient and most ineffective way possible, but we're doing it a lot.
We're going up a hill on a bike and we're using the first gear. Why don't you just switch to the higher gear?
With the brake too.
Right,
Exactly.
right. And she also centered the hostages. Again, this is just copy and paste, as opposed to like the reality of what the Israeli government is doing, which is sacrificing the hostages for genocide. And I'm shocked to see when she came on the House floor a few months ago and said this is genocide and had strong language. This is a very different tactic that she's taking, and they kept cutting to Kathy Hochul in the middle of her speech. Maybe she wants to run for governor, maybe she wants to take Schumer's seat. But I think that we're at a point now where we should be observing the fact that she's making some moves away from the left when she first got elected in 2018.
Another indicator of that is saying middle class when working class should be the term that a socialist elected uses. So, she's making a pivot. She
say it a good amount in the speech, working class, but that's the Harris
I would remove middle class from my vocabulary, but she's on a different trajectory right now, and good luck.
Yeah.
All right, and we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to Jasper Nathaniel. He is a writer on the Infinite Jaz newsletter on Substack, and has just written a piece for Zeteo, which I think is just about being published at this moment, about it's a story of a settler in the West Bank who who shot a Palestinian, and the incredible refusal of the Israeli system to hold this guy accountable. It's fascinating. I'm going to take a quick break. We will do more clips from the DNC later in the program, catch you up on some of the other highlights. But first, quick break, then Jasper Nathaniel. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Want to welcome to the program Jasper Nathaniel. He is the writer of the Infinite Jaz newsletter on Substack. Jasper, thanks for joining us. You just had a piece that was published in Zeteo. Before we get that, I mean, if people have been following your Substack, they know that since October 7th, you started to report from the West Bank. Why the West Bank?
Well, good question. Actually, I was right after October 7th. By the way, thanks for having me, Sam, Emma, team. I was doing a lot of reporting on the way October 7th was sort of manifesting in New York, and I was covering the protests, and I went down to DC for the big March for Palestine. And I was getting so wrapped up in the culture war here that I sort of felt myself becoming like detached from the actual war that was going on. And honestly, I wanted to just get a little bit closer, just to sort of reground myself in what this was all about. To be honest, I did look for about 10 minutes if there was a way to get to Gaza. very quickly decided that was not going to happen for a number of reasons. So then I just put out some feelers and figured out that I could get into the West Bank.
What, I'm just curious, like broadly speaking, what was your perceptions of the West Bank beforehand? I mean, you know, I think you've written and spoken about how you were raised Jewish, and you had this perspective on Israel that came from that background. But I'm curious as to your perspective on the West Bank before you went there.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, look, I knew that there was, I knew what was going on there for the most part. I understood there was a military occupation, of course. I understood that there were, it's a literal apartheid state there, two sets of laws for two different people. I had read a lot of what there was to read, but there was just something essential that I didn't actually quite understand until I went there. And the way I've described it, it's the pervasiveness of the cruelty. It's not as if, you have Palestinians going about living their normal lives and then, they run into a roadblock or they run into a soldier in a bad mood or something. It's everywhere. It's like in the air. The soldiers, the settlers are making their lives hell in every way imaginable. And, honestly, like a lot of people have said to me, how did you not know that? And I don't know, I guess I didn't fully understand it. But once I got there, I realized, there's just simply no escaping the cruelty when you're in the West Bank if you're a Palestinian.
Tell us the story of Zachariah al-Adra. Like, how did you meet him, his family, and then did you know them before this situation took place?
No, the first time I went to the West Bank was in January. And I wanted to visit Masafer Yatta, which is a region in the South Hebron Hills, which it's been in the news a fair amount lately for people who pay attention to this stuff. There's been some really great reporting in 972 magazine about it. The reason this place is under such a brutal siege is because in the 80s, it was named a military training zone. Which basically, it means exactly what it sounds like. Soldiers can just be firing their weapons there and running drills and things like that. And actually at the time, Ariel Sharon, who was a military leader of some sort at that time, explicitly said, we're doing this, we're making this a military training zone so that we can claim it as Jewish land for later. So, the pretext was just that, a pretext. And he was very explicit about that. But for decades, there's been this battle between the Palestinians there and the government and the military who are trying to get them out. It escalated in 2022 when a Supreme Court decision basically rejected their appeal to being displaced. But what makes it so there's this sort of government and military siege. But what makes it even worse is that you have these really brutal settlers who live in this region. Some of the, what I write about in the article, of course, is like the roots of these Jewish terrorists, many of whom actually come from this area. But anyway, to get back to your question, I'm sure we'll get to that stuff. I went to this village at Tuwani, and I was just introduced to Zachariah and his family. I had seen the video of him getting shot 2 months earlier, but I didn't know him at all. And while I was talking to him, he was telling me his story. He had actually just gotten out of the hospital that day. While I was talking to him, we hear this like commotion outside, and the settlers had come back, as they do almost every day, with their giant guns. Some of them were probably soldiers. You can't tell the difference because the settlers dress like soldiers now. They came back. They started firing their weapons in the air, pushing the shepherds around, intimidating, menacing people. And so I'm literally, talking to this man who has been shot by a settler a few months ago. He's with his 4 young children, including newborn twins, right outside the door. The settlers from the outpost who shot him are outside, just menacing and being violent again.
We should say you can see that video on Zateo's website. It's disturbing to watch. I mean, it really is just, there's a real quality to, like, this is just like gang, like they're just a gang, but it's not gang warfare. It's just a gang that is coming in and being brutal.
Formalized now, right? I mean, since over the past few months, it was formally given Smotrich, his kind of gang of extremists have basically been given authority over the West Bank, if I'm not mistaken, Jasper, kind of removing all the pretense that this is some sort of military training site, as opposed to designating it as a military training site to make it easier to bulldoze, take homes, kill people, etc.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is in the West Bank, it's like there's violence and destruction, and then sometimes they then sort of retroactively legitimize it with laws. Like a lot of these illegal outposts have been since recognized as settlements, which makes them legal under Israeli law. So like the law to a certain extent doesn't matter because they're either breaking the law and then later it's being legitimized, they're breaking the law or they're not being convicted. Like 3% of violent settlers are ever actually convicted, or they're not breaking the law. They're being violent and destructive within the law. And I should also just say that like what I write about in this article is that the man who shot Zachariah, Yitzhak Nir, his father was a convicted terrorist. He shot up an Islamic university, killed 3 people, wounded 29 others with his brother. And they were part of this movement of really extreme religious, fanatical settlers who were very clear in what their aim was in being in the West Bank. They were there to start a war with the Palestinians that would end in either the death of all the Palestinians or the Palestinians' expulsion. So it's not as if they were there to try to, live there and have a good life and live, potentially in side by side. Like they knew exactly what they were doing. They were building outposts in places that they knew were going to cause problems. They were, instigating violence. And, that's exactly what's happened, of course, is like there's this constant violence now.
All right. We just jumped over something, though, that I think is like really sort of what your piece really captures. You named the Jewish settler. I mean, we see the video. We see who shot Zachariah. The guy shows up when Zachariah comes out of the hospital. He's outside the door. They know it. I mean, this is the part that I think is like sort of like the, as if it's like sort of our classic sort of mafia mob gangland thing. But it's like they're all on, not literally on meth, but they're acting like it on some level. But the point is, everybody knows who it is. And so, I mean, take it from there, because this is the part that I don't think that people fully understand. We hear the U.S. government is, making what I think is just sort of like platitudinous issue out of settler violence in the West Bank. And supposedly this isn't even at the level of an apartheid regime where there doesn't seem to be any accountability whatsoever, even in the context of a system that has 2 separate laws. Like, theoretically, it's still not legal for a settler to attempt to kill and shoot just a Palestinian civilian for no reason whatsoever. But so how is this guy identified, and what has been the process of has he been reported? Like, why is he now able to continue to terrorize his family?
Let me just first clarify that we don't know that Yitzhak Nir himself has been back to Tawani, but other settlers from the outpost have been back. But okay, so this was also one of the most shocking things to me, which again, in hindsight, especially after seeing what's happening in Gaza, it's like, of course there's no accountability, but to me, it's like, it's on video. Clearly there's no, legitimate claim of self-defense. Like how could this guy still be walking free? So basically, this is what happened. So this was on October 13th. It was, just under a week after October 7th. The civilian security squad at this outpost had just been armed by the military. So they were given assault rifles, American assault rifles, I should say, and military uniforms that they could, be like conscripted into this war against the Palestinians, really. And what they did is, they went down. The Yitzhak Nir would later claim that he had a report from Shin Bet, which is one of the intelligence agencies in Israel, that there was an attack coming from At-Tuwani, which is almost certainly bunk. There's no armed resistance in this village, I should say. Like, these are farmers and shepherds. There's no guns here. There's no violence. So they go down. He claims that after they got this report, they heard a commotion, and they went down for, in their capacity as the armed security. He goes down and he shoots Zachariah. And if you watch the video, you see them sort of like hiding behind a boulder, as if they're in war, when, again, they've just entered this complete peaceful farming village, like hiding behind a boulder, coming out with their guns. And he shoots Zachariah, and then he is called back by a guy in military fatigues, again, as if they're in war. So, like, to a certain extent, they're cosplaying here. They're pretending that they're in a war when they're actually just shooting unarmed people in a farming village. But what happens is, immediately after, and I should say, like, just getting Zachariah to the hospital was a debacle because of all the roadblocks, and he almost bled out in the car on the way there. They couldn't even get an ambulance to him. But what happens is the police, according to the court documents, the police go to investigate the next day. They immediately identify Yitzhak Nir as the man who shot him. I don't know if that was from the video or if somebody just outed him, but like they immediately knew it was him. He told them that Zachariah intended to throw a stone at him. Intended to throw a stone. How he knew that, anybody's guess. You can watch the video yourself and see if it appears that he intended to throw a stone. But that's what he says. The police, again, according to court documents, they take away his weapon, but they don't do anything else. They don't take him into the station. They don't investigate. So then that same day, Zachariah, who is, he's in the ICU at this point, really touch and go. His father and brother go to the local police station, which is, Israeli military police, and they try to file a complaint. And the police say the victim has to come in here and file a complaint himself, a criminal complaint. And they say, well, the victim, as you can see in this video here, which has 1 million views or something, was shot in the abdomen, is, potentially going to die in the hospital. They said, well, he has to come here himself and file the complaint. So they said, well, why don't you go to the hospital and take his testimony? They refused to do it. So again, according to the court documents, there's a 5-month investigation, and then no arrests are made. The case is closed. So then finally, once Zachariah is well enough to travel, this is just in July, so 9 months later, he and his lawyer actually do go, he and his attorney, who's an Israeli Jewish guy, go to the police station and file that criminal complaint. So allegedly the case has been reopened, but I haven't been able to get any details on if there's another investigation going on. I should say they also did get a restraining order on Nir, so he is for 180 days not allowed to go into At-Tuwani and not allowed to carry a weapon. Now, why he should ever be allowed to go there is anybody's guess, but so that's where it stands today.
How indicative, lastly, of like this is one individual story, and people could say, well, there was a bureaucratic snafu. How indicative of is this, based upon your having spent a fairly considerable amount of time over the past 8 months there, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just put it this way: when I was traveling around with my fixer, we kept meeting these people who had been maimed by bullets, by IDF bullets or settler bullets, or they had lost a son or a father or somebody to the IDF. And I would ask them, what was your recourse after? Who did you call? What was the investigation? What was what were the proceedings like? And Zaid would sort of smile, my fixer, and then he would translate, and they would look at him like they didn't understand the question. Because just the concept of there actually being any recourse against this violence from soldiers and settlers is so absurd that people they didn't really even understand the question that I was asking. So this is incredibly typical. His attorney said it himself. This happens all the time. It's happened since well before October 7th. It got worse in 2022 when, this new Israeli government came together and further emboldened this violence. But yeah, the only difference here is that this was caught on video. But otherwise, this happens every single day.
Jasper Nathaniel, writer of the Infinite Jaz newsletter on Substack, also great follow on Instagram as well. And this piece in Zateo, we'll put a link to it. The video is there, which has been, seen, like you say, at least 1 million times. You would think that would be sufficient evidence. No, it gives you an indication of essentially what the value of Palestinian life is, as far as the Israeli occupying force considers it in the West Bank, where, again, remind you, there is no Hamas. Jasper, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
All right. All right, folks, we're going to head into the fun half. We've got some more fun clips of last night. AOC's speech really did blow the roof off in many respects. I mean, I think between her and Sean Fain, that was the most popular response of any of the politicians, as far as I saw.
Biden got
although
along
Biden,
with
I was
motion.
going to say, when Biden came out, it took literally 10 minutes before he was allowed to speak.
Hold your tongue. There's a hot Kathy Hochul clip that is lighting the internet on fire.
We will also play Kathy Hochul's appearance at the DNC. Completely barnstorming. Just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, but you get the fun half, and you get to IM us on the fun half. Some of you even love to spam us on the IMing of the fun half, but that's I guess
it's your prerogative.
Whatever, it's your prerogative. Also, don't forget, Just Coffee all this week. MR25 gets you 25% off of any of their blends or single origin coffees. It's a great time to check out your favorite there. And the AM Quickie, ladies and gentlemen, 3 days a week for free. You get top headlines in your email box. You can become a subscriber. That's 3 days a week. Emma.
On ESPN yesterday, we talked a little bit about the WNBA, what's up with that playoff race, but also some preseason headlines. Some good, like Caleb Williams, Bo Nix looking phenomenal. Some bad, like my New York Giants quarterback throwing a pick six out of the end zone off his return from injury. Jesus Christ. YouTube.com/ESPN show for that.
And Left Reckoning on Sunday, I talked with Olivier Jutel about venture capitalists and the concept of exit, both in terms of, say, I'm going to exit society by building a sea colony out in the middle of the Pacific, and also I'm going to exit this investment of, say, a fraudulent crypto coin by taking all of the money and running away, maybe to said, fake island off the Pacific. So check that out, patreon.com/Left Reckoning. Tonight, Elias Cepeda, who was protesting the DNC last night, will update us from Chicago, talk a little bit about that, and David Griscom's back from vacation. So tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on Patreon, or on Left Reckoning YouTube.
All right, quick break. 646-257-3920 is the number. We'll be right back after this. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, and I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now, but I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry.
talking
Oh,
for a
wow.
second. Now let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? Is it?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello, is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports. We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go start watching.
Libertarians.
They're so stupid though.
Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him!
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge met.
Positively quivering. I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-501. 1/2. 3/8.
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
6, 5, 4, $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
You can call it satire. Sam goes, it's satire.
On top of it all,
Yeah.
my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like
Yeah.
everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the weak being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland. The number is 646-257-3920. 646-257-3920. Turning on the phones at the moment. Before the cause, I'll bet you read this dumb message instead of all the carefully crafted ones I've written since I became a member. Love you, jerks. I'm sorry about that. Kamala stowed the waltz. I was there yesterday at the DNC protest. The vibe was great. Even a very small incident with the